will be still. This time I will be still. And so we say good morning now to our virtual family that is joining us. And I say good morning because somewhere on the planet it is morning. And within our lives, there are those experiences that remind us that this is a brand new day. So each time that we come together, it is morning wherever we are and watching this. And so our topic for today, as we conclude the month of September, is and still I rise, and still I rise. We're concluding our September theme of reaching higher. And I want to share a personal story that ties in with the song that was offered here in the sanctuary about being still and trusting in that infinite wisdom that is within and listening within. When I moved to Monterey, there were several angels that told me about Revival Ice Cream. And I see some eyes lighting up, so we know about this place. It can be very decadent, and the ice cream is just really to live for. And so the first time I visited there, I decided, based on just what I saw in the selections, that I would become a regular customer. Now, there are two things that you need to know about this for those of you who are not in the general area. Revival Ice Cream is about a 5-minute or less walk from the center. So when I'm working here at the center, that can be very dangerous. And it's only about a 10-minute walk from my apartment. So that can be equally as dangerous. However, I have learned to practice, what shall I say, restraint with my purchase from Revival. But anyway, the main point of the story is that on one of my recent visits, the customer service was not to the level that I had experienced in the past. And of course, as a member accumulating points, each time I make a purchase, I receive an email that invites me to give a response about the service and the atmosphere and all of that. So some of you may be familiar with filling those forms out. So on a recent experience, the service was a little bit less than I expected, and I had asked a question that they weren't able to answer. And so when I responded to the little survey, I indicated that the service was a little bit less than what I was accustomed to. And almost immediately, I received a response asking me for details so that they could look into the issue and come up with some resolution. And I was really amazed that there was a response that quickly. And so there was something within me that said, just be still. Go into the silence. Don't respond now from a place of, I was mildly upset. I wasn't angry, but I was just mildly upset. And so I listened, and I didn't respond to the message right away. And there was something that kept saying to me, go into your account and do your own research. And when I did that, I discovered how the points are accumulated, and each purchase that I make, I get the points for it. So everything was in order. And so a couple of days later, I did respond to the message and let them know that I was able to resolve the issue on my own. And when I was filing the response, I have this elaborate filing system on my computer where I have things labeled and I have the categories and all of that. And so this is where I can be my own best comedian. When I filed my response, I paid attention to the labeling on the folder that I had filed it under, and the label is food, health, wellness, and self-care. Now I submit to you that Revival Ice Cream fits all 4 of those categories. And so I offer this experience as backdrop for our message today, and still I rise. Baron Kate writes, when you realize that every stressful moment you experience is a gift that points you in the direction of your freedom, life becomes very kind. When we recognize and realize that every stressful moment that we experience is a gift pointing us in the direction of our own freedom, then life becomes very kind. So in that moment at Revival Ice Cream, I could have allowed my experience to become stressful for myself, for the service, and for the other customers that were in there. However, that was not my intent. My intent was not to get everyone upset. And I recognize this now as a growth within my own self from consistently practicing the principles of science of mind. Our consistent practice of spiritual principles allow us to recognize that in spite of discomfort and obstacles, we persevere and we rise. Last week, I shared with you the concept of what is in the way is the way, meaning that when we rise because of and through our challenges and discomforts, the word difficulties is right there. So when we rise because of and through our challenges and our discomforts, that is the way out of whatever the experience is. There is that within us that calls us forward and upward on our journey of awakening. And this calls us to a greater understanding of ourselves, our relationship with Source, and our role and purpose in society. As we rise, we find confirmation of moving forward in the evolutionary vision statement of our Centers for Spiritual Global Living vision that reads, "We envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought, a world where every person discovers their personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone." Science of Mind teaches us how to discover and to use the creative power of thought. Ernest Holmes, in What We Believe, writes, "We are surrounded by a creative mind which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it." This is another way of saying that we are an inlet and an outlet into the mind of God. There is an energy in thought that leads to freedom. Freedom for what we want, and freedom from what we do not want. And our practice of definite and specific thinking draws this energy of freedom through our conscious desires and makes manifest these desires at the level of our comprehension of good. Now, comprehension shows up when we become aware that we are living as what we think. Ponder that for a moment. Comprehension shows up when we become aware that we are living as what we think, whether it is a matter of health, supply, happiness, success, harmony, relationships, or any other aspect of life. The moment we recognize the creative pattern of our thinking, we have empowered ourselves to change our life. Change your thinking, change your life. Referencing again What We Believe by Ernest Holmes is this statement: "We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Emancipation begins within and extends outward. By changing our thinking, changing our life, Becoming clear about what it is that we do want as well as what we don't want is where the emancipation process begins. It all begins within. And I offer these illustrations for the creative power of thought. Still I Rise. This classic poem by Maya Angelou, Still I Rise, is the namesake for today's theme. Written in 1978, this poem was a response to the African American cultural experience in the United States. However, like all great poetry, it articulates universal truth. The refrain of Still I Rise is the heartbeat of truth proclaiming that there is within each of us something unstoppable, inexhaustible, inextinguishable, and unchangeable. This truth is called God, Spirit, divine intelligence, love, source, that in which we move, live, and have our being, and much, much more. That which rises in us as us can never be oppressed. Life rises as us always. And love liberates, it does not bind. Our second illustration is that pain is the portal to power. Pain is a portal to power. Now, in New Thought, we tend to avoid pain and suffering via spiritual bypass or other forms of denial. We don't want to deal with pain. And we have a common cliche that we use, such as, it's all good or it's all God. Bypass is a temporary and unsatisfying fix, which robs us of the deep lessons and the wisdom and the power that challenging life experiences can offer us. Instead of running from the pain in all of its forms, because pain shows up more than just as physical pain, running away from it in all of its forms when it comes to visit us, instead of doing that, what if we leaned into a process of listening closely to hear what pain has to teach us? What if we see it as an evolutionary opportunity to be clearer openings for the greater expression of spirit? What if we reframed pain as an expression of spirit, a holy portal that leads us to the center of our own unique power and purpose? And this quote from the Essential Earnest I really like, and it says, "Take the heat out from under old hurts, and what is left is light." Take the heat out from under old hurts, and what is left is light. And I know that in my own life journey, when I've moved through that painful process, whatever it is, and when I have not denied that the occurrence happened, when I embraced that something did happen, something was upsetting, something was challenging, when I embraced that and moved through my own internal process of forgiveness and recognition and looking at what my role may have or may not have been in the process, what emerges out of that is light. Because now I am able to look back and to identify the life lesson that came to me through that experience. And then our third illustration this morning is nothing is wasted. The songwriter has said that all the times that we have wasted will be given back to us. Nothing is wasted. All is used for good. In this context, then, we face the joys and the challenges with equanimity, knowing that all of our experiences are used by Spirit in service to our greater unfoldment and to the greater unfoldment of the entire human race. We know there is a divine intelligence, a creative power back of all things that operates in and through and as us, and it operates most perfectly. This is a key point to remember, that this thing, this creative power that is in back of all things, operates through us, and it does so most perfectly. Another way of seeing this is to recognize that that which appears as the most devastating has produced the incredibly unique work of art that is you and me. That which felt unendurable became the crucible that blasted away the small self, giving way to the greater. So out of these painful experiences, we become these great works of art and great masterpieces that we are as unique expressions of the divine. And so our call to action this week, as we awaken to our spiritual magnificence, we remember the timeless wisdom of our Science of Mind principles that offers this: the seed of perfection is hidden within. The seed of perfection is hidden within. Despite the appearance or the experience of obstacles and adversity, the way of life is always rising, expanding, and evolving. Every part of our journey is useful and necessary for that which Spirit wants to express through each of us. We have to embrace and accept the entire package for Spirit to express itself through us. Nothing is wasted. We rise up into a life that works. We allow the Spirit to help others rise up by accepting each person as they are and where they are as expressions of the divine. Once we open our eyes to what matters, we change. And this is how we create a world that works for all. And this from Maya Angelou. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I rise. And so our discussion and reflection questions for this week are: what does "and still I rise" mean to me? What is Spirit trying to birth through me? And what practices can help me in consciousness during these turbulent times? And I've asked our tech team to drop these into the chat for us and also in the comment section on our Facebook Live page. I'll repeat the questions again. What does "and still I rise" mean to me? We're asking these and reflecting on these questions for ourselves. What is Spirit trying to birth through me? And what practices can help me rise in consciousness during these turbulent times? And our affirmation for the week is: the power of God rises in me and I am free. And I invite you to say that with me. The power of God rises in me and I am free. I invite us now to turn within as we pray together, knowing that there is one source, there is one cause in back of everything. I move and live and have my beingness as this cause. It is what I identify as God. And as I know and declare and affirm and express this truth for myself, I know it is true for all. For the one source does not discriminate or designate against its own self. It is its own creation, and out of its creation, it created the many, the multiplicity. And is within that multiplicity and the diversity that is within that multiplicity that unites us as one family. And as family, as a united family, we move forward. We rise through adversity. We rise through the experiences that we may describe as painful or hurtful or harmful. We rise above the pettiness of the day-to-day experiences of life. We do this through the consistent use of our spiritual practices. And we become aware, we become consciously aware that God in me, as me, is me. And I become an unstoppable force, a force for good in the universe. And so I speak my word of blessing and acknowledgement for all places where people are gathering in the name of that which is holy, in the name of that which represents truth for them on their journey of awakening, their journey on the path to wholeness, remembering that all is good, that all is God, not as a cliche, but as the truth that everything, absolutely everything is good. And we see the qualities of those goodness in ourselves and in others. I speak a word of blessing this morning for members of our planetary family that are experiencing transitions in their lives, whatever that transition may be showing up as. Maybe showing up as a health opportunity, a health challenge for oneself or for a family member. It may show up as a transition from one living space to another living space. It may show up as a transition in right livelihood, moving from one area or arena of employment into another expression of right livelihood that is pulling each one towards their growing edge, growing in truth, growing in spirit, growing in the name and the nature of the oneness of all life. And so within the recesses of our own hearts, those prayer requests that remain there as silence, or those prayer requests that have been voiced to a practitioner or a confidant, I know that the answer is yes and amen. And I know that Spirit is revealing in and through and as each one the perfection of life, the wholeness of life, and the significance that each one brings to the planet, knowing that each one makes a difference. Each one of us makes a difference. And so for this and for so much more, I am eternally grateful, releasing this word into the law. I know that the answer is always yes. And I invite us to affirm this together as we say, and so it is. And as we prepare now to share our abundance, we have an abundance statement that we want to share with you. And it's a recognition that the presence of God is within each one of us as our source. And so we affirm together, I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything that I could desire. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. I release this visible substance as an outer symbol of my inner supply into the physical world, which this prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so it is. And we have shared on our screen the various ways that you may continue to support the center by mailing in a check through our secure website or via text to give. And so as we say good morning to our virtual family in Facebook and those who will be viewing on our YouTube channel, I invite you to come back next week as we begin our October series, which is Going Further Together. Going Further Together. And our talk will be the divine community. And so we say thank you and good morning to our virtual community.